Picture this. You're a teen who has lost their best friend, and a talking bug promises that you can bring them back to life. To do so, you take up a weapon and become a warrior, fighting representations of the trauma of people just like your best friend, knowing that for every battle you win, you inch a little bit closer to saving your friend. And then a murderous robot ends. So yeah, have y'all watched Wonder Egg Priority? It's a magical girl anime released back in 2021, and it became a big hit for a few weeks. Then, episode 11 happened. It completely bombed, and then it became a footnote in anime history forever, only notable for its colossal failure. At this point, the community is almost completely abandoned, inhabited only by the solitary few who still find thin shreds of joy in it. And also me. See, this show has fundamentally altered my brain chemistry. It's not just that the show is bad. Tons of shows are bad. This show is fascinatingly bad. I could talk about it for hours and hours and still not capture it all. That's not why I'm here today, though. There are lots of other places you can go for that. Today, I want to propose the impossible. I want to fix Wonder Egg Priority. Forewarning, I'm going to be proceeding as if you've watched the show, so if you want to watch it, I recommend leaving now. This is absolutely a piece of media best experienced on your own. Sound good? Come get cozy, and let's have a chit-chat about how we can make this very weird show better. Episode 1 is really good, actually. No, I mean it. See, the whole reason I was so ready to like this show is because Episode 1 does so much of the heavy lifting that the show relies on. Episode 1 sets up its themes and ideas really well, and even hints towards the fact that this won't have the happy ending it keeps trying to tell us it will. I think this episode hard carries so much of what the rest of the show is trying to do. The fun, bright colors, the unsettling boss fights, the trauma, the friendship, it's all here. We open on I. We are introduced to the egg world and are told the premise of defeating bosses to free the egg girls. The vibes in the first few minutes are so perfect for a dreamlike anime, and it carries that visual language in a way that a lot of the other episodes kinda don't. Like this moment where I exits her house and then is just at school. That's such a dream thing. So if the episode is so good, what do we change? Anything? Well, first, I doesn't have to pay for the eggs anymore. No one does. I don't really even know why this is a thing in the first place. I know they're trying to link it to, like, the Japanese capsule machines, but I don't really know why. Maybe it's a metaphor about paying for therapy? If so, that's not made clear, so we're dropping it. Second, remember this.
For lunch.
Yeah, me neither. The girls' wounds affecting them in real life is completely forgotten about after the second episode, so I think we can get away with dropping it entirely. Third, I just want to draw your attention to this moment.
She's a little warm. Is it because I saved Kurumi? Hey, if I save more people, then will Koito come back? Tell me she will?
Did you catch that? The Akkas never actually tell Ai that this will save Koito. She fully assumes that. That's good. We're keeping it. Along with the other most important part of Ai's character.
No way!
Yes, we're always worried about her.
She's so pretty!
What's our follow-up to a banger of an opening episode? Like in the anime, we should reinforce the idea of the egg world, define what the specific rules are, and expand a bit on the growing friendship between Ai and Neiru. Neiru, in our version, is an overachiever who is doing a bunch of eggs at once, and she gets irritated when Ai tries to befriend her because she doesn't have time to talk. Maybe she's walking from school to cram school and thinks Ai is a slacker for not attending. Then, Neiru gets dizzy and has to depend on Ai to get her somewhere safe. Maybe she's been too focused on studying and hasn't eaten all day. Ai brings her juice and a snack, and they bond like they do in the original episode. I think this makes a good bridge for the girls to go from being strangers to being friends, and it also gives us an idea of who Ai is when she isn't in brooding loner mode. See, there's a bit of a jarring skip between her characterization in the last episode and now.
What's that?
Game,
You like games?
I guess.
So isn't it hard to protect that many eggs? How do you do it? Ever had these? They're pretty tasty.
I think there's some value in the idea that she's like this because she experienced it from Koito. Maybe Neiru scathingly asks her where she learned to make friends, and Ai says that Koito pestered her just like this. This tells us a little bit about all three of the characters and sets the groundwork for why these two will be friends going forward. And then Ai asks about Neiru's other friends, and Neiru begrudgingly admits that Well, she doesn't have any. See, in the original anime, Neru is flat-faced, speaks with a flat affect,
Can I ask you a question? Is that considered fun?
rarely emotes, and says multiple times that she doesn't really understand the people around her. And if that's not the autistic experience, I don't know what is. She's wickedly smart in the one area that she excels at and clearly struggles in social situations. The problem is that I think the anime did this because, well, they made her a robot, but we're not doing that. I think she's a great example of a neurodivergent character, and that's what I want to focus on. So, Neru's neurodivergence hasn't made her any friends, and it makes school hard, but she still likes what she likes, and she bonds with Ai, who accepts her as she is. I like the thought of the girls sharing the boss fight of this episode, and we can even keep the boss being a super strict teacher because it fits Neru's new theme. And speaking of themes, she's fighting to save her sister, but not like the original anime lies to us about. Neru really does love and want to save her little sister, who is subjected to the same rigorous pressure that she's dealing with. It simply became too much of her one day, and now Neru works even harder to bring her back. That's her new Neru. Isn't she cute? I and Neru are friends now, just in time for Rika to hit the stage. Rika's episode is fine as is, really, so the only thing that needs to change here are some settings. Instead of being in the hospital, maybe the three girls hang out near Neru's school or something. I think that Rika and Neru clash. I think that just makes sense with their personalities, but I'd show more of Ai acting like glue for the two of them. Again, that's supposed to be her overall role, but it's almost never actually on screen. Let's show that more, give us a reason to like our protagonist. She diffuses the argument and sets the groundwork for their future friendship. Also, I'm going to pare down Rika's whole fight to fit in the single episode. It never sat right with me that Rika gets 1.5 episodes to her introduction and Momoe only gets 1. As for the fight itself, it's fine. I feel like the theming here is weak, to be honest. See, the egg girls in this episode are a pair of fans of some idol who committed suicide to be just like them.
We're giant fans of Yu-Yu!
Who's Yu-Yu?
A singer who committed suicide.
We're ride or die for Yu-Yu! So when Yu-Yu did die, we naturally followed suit!
Jeez. And the form of their trauma is another fan who did the same thing, but was old.
All I wanted was to die too, to chase after Yu-Yu.
This is the lady who got arrested for stalking Yu-Yu!
These creeps are everywhere. Delusional fans who cross the line.
Yu-Yu doesn't care about little brats like you. Only mature women.
Do you see what I mean? Sure, it's got to do with idols, but I feel like it says very little about Rika. I'd want to rewrite it to reflect her statue a bit more. Now, instead of being some random fans, these girls were influenced into diet culture by their idol. They flitted from fad diet to fad diet, trying to be skinny as their idol before dying as a result. Their trauma, then, is the idol herself, or the version of her that sold them these supplements. Then, Rika defeats her, deconstructing the toxicity of idol culture. Okay, maybe it's a bit on the nose, but we haven't exactly been subtle up till now. Our final girl appears in the form of Momoe. We can keep her introductory fight in which everyone thinks she's a boy, since that's a fun little bait and switch, I think. Although, I would definitely rewrite this moment where the egg girl feigns like she's gonna let the monster... Ugh. It's gross and not well handled compared to the rest of the episode, so let's cut it. There are tons of other ways we can resolve this fight. After that, though, what I really want is to give Momoe more depth. As happy as I am to see a trans character get some representation in the original anime, it's kind of her only character trait. So in our version, she's a jock now. She loves playing baseball, but since she's in high school now and firmly mid-puberty, the coaches at her school don't want to let her on the girls' team. This also gives us a firm anchor for her facing real-world transphobia instead of whatever was going on with her in the show. And listen, I do feel for the butch ladies out there who vibe with her character as is, but the trans allegory with Momoe is...
This is a women's-only car, you sneaky rat! If you're that desperate to ride, then I'll be more than happy to chop your manhood off!
Just so you know, I have every right to ride in this car, too!
What drivel are you spouting?
I'm saying, I can be here because I'm a girl!
Not subtle. Anyway, now that we're out of the dream, it's important that we see Momoe in the real world. Maybe Ai runs into her while she's crying because she's not allowed to join the high school team, and Ai trots up to ask what's wrong, and that's how they befriend each other. Of course, Ai addresses her as a girl, which brings Momoe a lot of joy. Then, like with both of the other girls, she and Ai share the follow-up fight with the turf. It gets confirmed that most people think that Momoe is a boy, and with Ai's help, they defeat the turf monster that's in the show. Maybe at the end we could get a shot of all the girls being friendly, like in the base episode, and it's cute. Can we talk about how cute this is? This is what this anime is about. This is so cute. Ugh. I love this moment. Anyway, that just leaves the matter of Momoe's statue. We're doing this a bit early. In the original anime, it's not exactly confirmed who the statue is until the 5th episode. I say confirmed, but it's actually kept extremely vague. We know that in the original, Momoe's statue was a sapphic girl who, at the very least, did some really aggressive sexual harassment. And again, this is not made clear, but we can infer that Momoe rejected this girl, and as a consequence, she stepped in front of the train. That's sort of weird, right? And since it barely comes up, I'm rewriting it. Now, Momoe's statue was another trans girl, one who came out before Momoe and helped her realize that there are other people like herself. Her death is a consequence of mounting transphobia in their community, becoming increasingly aggressive as the two girls begin to undergo puberty. Momoe wants to bring her back so she won't feel incredibly alone. And with those details established, that's a wrap for episode 4. I think we take this episode to spend some time with all 4 girls as a unit. We're going to combine the bowling scene from episode 5 and the sleepover scene from later on. You know, let the girls banter and get along with each other. It's important that we have time to appreciate them as a cohesive group because their friendship is really the backbone of the story. But of course, a story can't live on fluff alone, so once that's established, we introduce Ai's further conflict. She's still worried about Koito and blames her death on Mr. Sawaki. We get the girls talking about maybe why Koito did what she did and how Mr. Sawaki might be involved or might not be. The fight of the episode could include all of them fighting together. Again, it's important to get some group time. And maybe Ai gets distracted or otherwise disabled because of how fixated she is on blaming Mr. Sawaki. The girls have to save her, and they express worry about her in this preoccupation. The next episode will follow our girls more closely one-on-one, and this is where we start diverging more aggressively from the base show. We'll start with Nehru. It's a normal day for her. She wakes up in a room that is half decorated and half not, very clearly a room she once shared with her younger sister. She starts bright and early with school, being a model student. Then she does some extracurriculars, something preppy like student body president, before she goes to cram school in the evenings. It's dark when she finally gets home, where she works on her homework and then goes to bed, with a visual focus on the empty side of the room. We see how difficult the egg dreams are for her because of how many girls she's fighting to protect and how many monsters she has to defeat. By the way, isn't it weird that we never see her fighting more than one monster at a time in the original anime? Then the cycle restarts. We fast forward through another day, then another. Each night, Nehru is more tired, doing less studying and dreading the empty half of the room more and more. The idea here is that Nehru is seriously overworking herself at an unsustainable pace, half at her parents' insistence that she do well, and half because it keeps her distracted from the pain of losing her sister. Of course, this isn't a sustainable cycle, and eventually Nehru has a breakdown. Her friends can't contact her, and they come to her house to find her face down in bed with the lights off and a pillow over her head. She's become incredibly burnt out and overstimulated by trying to do everything, and by mourning her sister on top of it all. And her friends accept her as she is. They keep the room dark and quiet and keep her company while she recovers. They put on a movie quietly, projecting it onto the empty wall over her sister's empty bed, bringing light to it once more. They physically fill up the space, putting their snacks and bags and selves into the void left behind. They let her stay wrapped up in a blanket while they all stay with her. And finally, at the end of it all, she smiles, for the first time in the whole episode. It's a big departure from Nehru's characterization in the main anime. It's her story now. There's no corporations or evil sisters or robots. We've even gotten rid of Clown Girl. Okay, look, I know she has a name, but look at this goofy-ass face. In this house, her name is Clown Girl.
This isn't a joke! I won't forgive your clowning.
In the original anime, Clown Girl is supposed to humanize Nehru, but now that Nehru is significantly more relatable, we don't need that anymore. Clown Girl's only other functions in the narrative are to foreshadow Frill, which, ugh, and to tell us that Nehru is a robot, which, ugh. In my opinion, Nehru was the worst handled of the 4 girls in the original anime, and I think that this new story, focusing on giving her relatable struggles and a coherent theme, helps her come together a lot more. Next is Rika's episode. This is going to be significantly closer to the original anime than the last episode, since again, the show mostly handles Rika okay. We learn the whole thing with her waiting for her dad and hoping that he'll come back home. We also reintroduce that she's a cutter. Most of this is fine, honestly, being angry with her mom, throwing a tantrum when one of the other girls is rude about it, and bonding with Ai about being raised by single moms. This is all mostly fine. The only thing I want to add is that maybe Ai sees that Rika has more cuts on her arm and gently tells her that it won't solve anything, and it's only pushing her further into a bad space. It's set up for a scene I want to include later. More than anything, though, we have to change the final fight. In the main episode, Rika is helping a cult girl, gets a bit cultified herself, and is then saved by her pet turtle thing, before learning that she should be nicer to her mom.
That's right. Manan imprinted on me, so he thinks I'm his mom. You have to keep your mom safe.
That was close. Another minute, I would have turned into a selfish piece of shit mother.
It never sat right with me. But worse than that is how she never stops idolizing her dad, who is entirely absent.
Father?
Her mother may be doing the bare minimum, but her dad is doing even less. Why is he so important to her? There's also an insinuation that she has to be better for her pet and talks as if she's its mom, which the implications of that are kind of fucked up. I haven't mentioned this up until now, but in our version of the story, I don't think the girls should get their super pets. It's pretty clearly a meaningless video game upgrade, purely so that they can get all murdered by Frill's bugs later on. And in case it wasn't obvious from the start, we're not including Frill. Put that robot in the shed where she belongs. But jumping back to Rika's fight scene. I'd rewrite it to have her overcome the urge to cut instead of the mom revelation. Maybe the monster goes to give her a cleansing cut or whatever, and as the weapon comes out, she suddenly realizes that Ai is right and self-harm isn't a good solution to any problem. At this realization, she smacks the weapon away and defeats the monster easily, resolving never to self-harm again for her own sake. And finally, at the end of the episode, I'd have Rika throw out the pictures of her potential dads, and instead replace them with pictures of her new friends. This brings us back to Momoe, the girl of the hour. The only thing that really happens in her original episode is that she goes on a date with a gay boy who thought she was a guy, and then later kisses a trans boy. And listen, good for her, but this is a bit bare bones. Romance will not solve this girl's problems.
Well, it's probably because he thought I was a boy.
No way are we laughing at that.
I wish you would. I'll just feel worse if you don't.
Because inside, I'm a boy.
So like before, we'll give her a bit more substance. We open on Momoe going to her school and asking if she can please be accepted on the girls' baseball team. She's refused. Her coach says something like, "This isn't a little kid's game anymore. You can try out for the boys' team, but you won't be accepted to the girls." Momoe is obviously upset, but then the girls come by to give her a pep talk. They go to Momoe's house to watch baseball games and movies together, and Momoe opens up about her dreams of playing baseball professionally. Of course, she doesn't think that she ever will now, with herself getting in the way. But then, Mr. Sawaki speaks up. They're related, remember? I think you should come by on family business and overhear their conversation, and decide to get involved and help out his niece. He tells her about how even Olympic athletes who are trans can compete in their chosen sport as their proper gender, and she's overwhelmed with hope and relief at this, and resolves to try harder to get onto the team. That night, she fights a transphobic monster, helps her trans boyfriend overcome it, and then goes back to the baseball team with the help of Mr. Sawaki. This time, because of his help, she makes it in. The last scene of the episode shows her playing her first game on the girls' team while her friends cheer her on from the stands. I want to focus more on the influences of transphobia on her life instead of leaving it so ambiguous. Individual monsters do exist, and they are bad, but there's a greater system at play here. So I hope this is a story that would get all of that across, and it neatly links us back into the main story. Now that we've brought Mr. Sawaki back, we can keep him around as we circle back to Ai. Ai is rattled from the proximity to Mr. Sawaki from the last episode, and we come back to how she blames him for Koito's situation. Not in a jealousy way like in the original anime, let me be absolutely clear. She's not jealous of him. She's displacing the guilt about the situation onto him.
I don't like him. I'm telling you, I don't!
This culminates in the girls having a whole fight. Momoe is on Mr. Sawaki's side, and Nehru agrees, pointing out that they have no way of knowing that he actually did anything. Rika is on Ai's side with weird conspiracies about him and Koito. I actually don't hate that she's the one talking about how there must be romance involved. I just wish it was more clearly refuted as the immature nonsense that it is. I think Nehru would be good for that. Eventually they split, each one going home alone. Ai sulks to herself, and that night, Ai gets an egg girl who used to do these quests herself. Ai's excited about the bonding moment, but this egg girl is lethargic and doesn't move with any kind of urgency at all. She barely seems to care about the see-no evils chasing them. When the boss monster appears and they brace to face it, it's her statue. Ai is surprised and confused, and this prompts Egg Girl to explain. She used to be a magical girl just like Ai, but one day she learned that the statues never actually come back to life. It's impossible. Her long, prolonged struggle was all for naught because her friend was never coming back. It was that crushing reality that prompted her to kill herself. Ai doesn't believe her, of course. During the dream, she barely survives because of how rattled she is by this. Meanwhile, the egg girl sits idly by, not making a move to help, repeating that Ai is fighting for no reason and telling her it's not worth it. Ai shouts over and over again that she's wrong, she's wrong, she's wrong! Eventually, the monster dies. The egg girl vanishes without a word. Ai checks on her statue, and it's cold. It was always cold. Ai is horror-struck by the realization that she can't actually bring Koito back, so much so that she shuts down for about a day and spends it locked up in her room, causing her mom to worry more than usual. Eventually, like always, her friends come through for her and she tells them about what she's learned. Initially, no one believes her. Momoe tells her to kick rocks because she's still mad about her bad-mouthing her uncle. Rika is super deep in denial that's fueled by her feelings of guilt. And of course, Nehru can't accept that all her hard work has been for nothing. Exactly like Ai before them, this is too huge a truth to swallow right now. The girls split up and stop talking for a bit, and Ai is in a very bad place. She tries to go back to the egg world, but finds that she can't get in. The illusion is gone for her, and she has no choice but to move on. She spends a long time holed up in her room, but eventually her mom asks where her friends have been and offers her some comfort, and Ai completely melts down. She sobs to her mother about all the horrible feelings she's been dealing with all on her own, and her mother comforts her and reassures her that she's doing her best and it will be okay. These kids are still kids, after all, and Ai's mother was never shown to be anything except a loving, hardworking mom. That means that even if she feels alone, Ai isn't. We also are sort of crossing paths with the original anime a little bit, which linked back to Ai and her mother's relationship. This encounter bolsters Ai, and after thanking her mother, she decides that if she can't bring Koito back on her own, she'll go get her own answers. She heads to Mr. Sawaki's room at the school. Hey, maybe we can even use that nonsensical running scene from the original anime. Ai tracks Mr. Sawaki down and demands to know why Koito did what she did. We intercut the scene of them talking with shots of the other girls becoming disillusioned with the egg dreams. Mr. Sawaki explains that he doesn't know why. Koito was a troubled girl who used to like to spend time in his classroom after school because she liked to draw and it gave her a place to be that wasn't home, which is heavily implied to be abusive in some unclear way, at least in my version of the anime. On Koito's last day alive, she stopped by and asked him if she could stay in his classroom again, and he replied that she couldn't, because he had some other small commitment, like a staff meeting or something. She quietly accepts that before going to do her thing. He wishes he could go back and say something else, but at the time, he simply didn't notice how bad she was doing. The fact is, you don't get to know why people do these things most of the time, no matter how badly you want to. She made her choice, and as sad as it isn't his fault. And it's not Ai's either. One by one, the other girls come to this conclusion on their own in the background. Nehru says that she wishes they had spent more time together instead of always working, but that making herself miserable won't bring her back. She knows her sister would want her to be happy. Rika says she's sorry one more time and resolves to treat people more kindly, to never inspire that sort of feeling in someone again. Momoe tells her statue that she's found other people who see her as a girl, and they're changing everyone's minds slowly but surely, and thanks her for being the first. And then, each of them walks away from their statues as the dreams fade away. The love, friendship, and community that they all thought they needed from their statues was there all along, in their friends. Ai hugs Mr. Sawaki and cries, and he says she's welcome back at the school anytime, and he's always there to support her. We open on a Sunday. The girls all get dressed and we have a scene of them walking around the town, getting food and spending time together. They reflect on how they've gotten better since everything happened because their friendship gave them something to look forward to and get out of bed for. Nehru was working less hard because she understands that her value isn't tied to her work. Rika no longer cuts and has accepted that she can find the community she needs in her friends instead of her absent parents. Momoe gets accepted into her baseball team and is slowly changing the minds of the people at her school. The outside world is still rough, but they can stand up to it when they can. And they stand together. In the last few minutes, Ai calls Mr. Sawaki on the phone and agrees to go back to school, and we see her walking through the gates into a bright light, implying a bright future. A lot of the worst stuff in Wonder Egg Priority, the real show, has to do with how the ending betrays the themes that the first half sets up. It's easy to point to Frill as the cause of this, but I think she's ultimately more of a symptom. The original show pretends that it cares about the girls it's writing about, and then reveals that it doesn't, by way of reducing all their problems to trends and sympathizing with their abusers. So, I wanted to see if we could think up a show that delivers on those themes and handles them as empathetically as the first half of the show. Honestly, it's weird, but thinking about this gives me hope that maybe one day a different show will come along and do the story justice. Maybe one day we'll get one direct priority sisterhood, you know? There's just a few more things I have in mind about the show that I couldn't quite fit into this draft. The Akkas, for one. The original anime explains them as the definitely not gay research dads of Frill, but that explanation is crap and honestly should make them the villains of the whole thing. Also, it doesn't explain why they're mannequins now. It's pedantic, but why over-explain everything else and then leave this glossed over? Now, I don't think a good story necessarily needs to explain every little thing. I'm fine letting the Akkas be a weird anachronism of the dream world. But if we're giving them meaning, well, we've got two vague dad figures, and two girls with no dads in their lives. I like to think they're faceless representations of Ai and Rika's missing dads. We even have one business boy for Ai and one wildcard for Rika, matching what little we know of their real dad's characterization. I'm not sure how you'd really make this point within the confines of the story, but I think I'd at least want to hint at it. Maybe during Rika's episode, since that's when the dad thing is brought up. As for criticisms, I can anticipate at least one big one, that being that the egg dreams don't have a defined origin. And yeah, you're right. The original show completely bungled itself trying to come up with one. But to be serious, I think it's pretty clear that the dream world these girls are going to is meant to be understood metaphorically. Like, the dream world is grief. By staying in the dream world, these girls are refusing to let themselves get over the traumas of their past because they cannot let go of the grief. And while it's critical to go through the grieving process, they could never have healed if they didn't grieve at all. I think staying in the dreams represents staying stuck in grief, letting it consume them. That's why I think it's so important that they help each other out of it, because it brings all the themes of the show home. Each of these girls experience the suicide of someone close to them. Horrified by their respective feelings and situations, they retreat into grief, punishing themselves emotionally for their loss because it's the only way they have to cope. And for a while it helps. They even find each other and bond over their shared grief. But staying in the grief means they will never get better, and eventually they have to heal. Ai does it first, as the glue of the group and the most emotionally mature, and with her help, but also under their own power, each girl comes to terms with their losses and resolves to keep moving forward even if it hurts. It's possible because they have each other. Finally, I've tried to refrain from talking about the writer of the show because I don't just want to be mean to strangers on the internet, but if you're curious about how the show happened the way that it did, it's worth looking into some of what he's said about it. That's all I'll say on that. Thanks for listening to me yap about my vision for this show. I hope it helped you heal from the trauma of watching it, and we can proceed into a better future with this better show in our hearts instead. Let me know what you think and what you'd change about the show if you had the power. Honestly, if anyone can think of a way to do anything decent with Frill, I really want to know. Thanks again, my friends. Stay safe out there.
No way.
Yes, we're always worried about her.
She's so pretty.
I'm in the gymnastics club. I knew it! I could tell by your awesome figure. One's a different color. We match.
I want you to be friends with me. In fact, let's be best friends.
Oh, a lesbian.